Hi everyone, today I will be reviewing the new Marvel Legends Walgreens exclusive Richard Rider Classic Nova. So here's a quick look at the box. On the front we have the Nova logo, and the insert behind the figure is a nice colorful galactic backdrop. On the top of the box, a Nova logo in yellow. And onto the bottom, some more product information. Down the side, a pretty cool artwork of Nova blasting into space. Moving on to the back. The same artwork of Nova filled out with the space backdrop, as well as a description of the character in a couple of languages. Down to the other side, the same reflected artwork. So let's go ahead and get him open. So out of the box you can see the figure in a plastic tray, and the stand for Cubit has dropped off. We also now have a better view of the space backdrop on the insert, which is really cool. For accessories he comes with a plastic stand, Cubit, as well as two interchangeable hands. Cubit's entirely casted in a gold plastic, with a red plastic star attached to his forehead, some black paint over here on the front of the helmet, as well as some nice sculpted detail down the bottom half of the helmet. He's got two pointy wings down the side, and that's really faithful to the character design. And onto the back of the helmet, it's just smooth gold plastic, and onto the bottom, there's a peg hole over here, and you can peg in that plastic stand. And with that plastic stand, you can have Cubit floating beside Nova. The two interchangeable hands are casted entirely in gold plastic, and they articulate in and out. And you can easily pop them on. So you can have Nova in a really cool flight pose, doing the Titanic, or some other wacky stuff. Now onto the sculpt of the figure itself. He's mostly the Bucky cap mold, and I'll point out the new parts as we go further in detail. Taking a closer look at his head sculpt, he's actually casted in several different colored plastics. First the gold for the helmet, then the flesh tone for the face, and the red for the star that's glued on his forehead. The eyes are painted a light blue, so that's the only paint on his head, but also a nice touch. Now my main gripe with the head sculpt is that because of the gold plastic, there are a couple of swirls on the front of his helmet. You can see the two lines over here just under his eyes, and I've actually observed that on several copies. So this is definitely a production issue. Moving on to the back of his helmet, it's just more of that smooth gold glossy plastic. Onto his torso, this is actually a brand new sculpt. Because of the straight down vertical lines down the sides to accommodate the shoulder pads, his torso is casted in a dark blue plastic and very sharply applied gold paint for the front detail. That gold paint goes all the way into the ab crunch, so as you crunch him back, the design doesn't really break up, so that's a really cool touch. He's got dark blue shoulder pads, and these are keyed into his shoulder, so they do not obstruct him as you rotate his arm around. And I really like the design of the shoulder pads. This is how all shoulder pads should be designed, so that they don't get in the way of articulation. Now his arms are just casted in the gold plastic, with the same swirly effect as you saw on his helmet. Dark blue paint on his wrists, and that's the only dark blue paint on this figure. Hasbro has done a good job matching the paint to the dark blue plastics on the rest of the figure. Moving towards the back, it's just a plain dark blue plastic on the torso with no extra paint. And onto his crotch piece, there's some gold paint around his waist. And that gold paint goes all the way down his legs and connects to his boot. And here's an interesting touch. Hasbro has actually gone and painted the pegs on the outside of his legs gold, because these pegs are actually casted in the dark blue plastic. And onto his boots, they're also a new mold, so that the top of the boot actually sticks out from the leg. And his feet actually look proportionate to his body size, unlike the really small feet on the Bucky cap mold. So here's a quick comparison of the new Nova with the old Nova. While they share some of the same parts in the arms as well as the legs, I feel that the new sculpt is cleaner and overall more proportional than the old one, with a larger head as well as a larger feet. I do like the details and the more metallic blues and golds on this modern take of Nova, but I really like the clean, simple, and more classic look on the new one. I still think that both of them have distinctly different enough sculpts that you can keep them both on your shelf to build out the Nova core. Moving on to articulation, his head's on a ball hinge, so he goes 360. There's not much sideways tilt. He can look up pretty well for his flight poses, as well as down that much. Swivel hinge at the shoulders for 360. He can go out that far. Swivel at the bicep for 360 as well. Double hinge elbows for very good range, as well as a swivel and the hinge at the wrist for 360. And articulate in that much, as well as out that far. He's got a good range in his ab crunch, crunching forward pretty well, as well as backwards that much. Swivel at the waist for 360. Now here's an interesting thing that I noticed while messing around with the articulation. The ball peg in his hips actually extend outwards in a V shape. So that's slightly different from the ball pegs in regular Marvel Legends figures. They usually just extend straight across the hip. He's got a good range in his hips, kicking forward and backwards that much, as well as a pretty decent sideways split. Swivel at the thigh for 360, double jointed knees for very good range, swivel at the boot for 360, angle articulation down pretty well as up, very decent range, and finally ankle tilt outwards as well as inwards. So overall the articulation works well to get him in a really decent flight pose. His head being able to look up far enough, as well as the paint over here not breaking as you crunch his torso backwards. So yeah, I'm really happy with this flight pose. And despite not having the butterfly joints in the shoulders, the articulation is pretty much Marvel Legends standard, so you can get him into many expressive poses. Size-wise, he stands at 6.5 inches or 16.5 centimeters to the top of his helmet. For size comparisons, here's Nova and Cubit with a couple of other galactic superheroes, couple of other Marvel Legends, some G.I. Joe Classified series, and some Star Wars Black series. In summary, the small gripes I have are on the swirly plastic on the helmet, the general lack of paint, and the relatively simple sculpt. But the simplicity is also the beauty of this figure, and really brings out the classic look and nostalgia. The minimal paint apps are clean and sharp, and the shoulder pads are really the way to go for all future releases. So overall, I can recommend this new version of Nova, and the sculpt is distinctly different between the previous Nova that you can keep both on the shelf. Please like and share this video, let me know what you think in the comments below, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, take care and stay safe.